In this video, we'll be discussing a question that you may already have regarding the course content for this course. Namely, what is analytics? So as we discuss this, I want to talk about what healthcare analytics is, being that that's the name of the course, and as part of that discussion include what data analytics is more broadly and what the tools and approaches we use are so that we can bring those in and figure out how those pieces relate with one another. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Instead of starting with healthcare analytics, we'll start with the bigger picture data analytics. So, what is data analytics? Essentially, data analytics is a method by which we organize information or facts called data for the purposes of decision making. In that definition, there's three general components. One, notice that we need information and facts. We need data by which we can organize and then come to decisions. So without data, analytics is not particularly useful. Now, don't hear me say that there's nothing we can do without data. There's a wide variety of analysis that can be done via logic. An argument is what analysis via logic is called. So there's many things we can do. We can use opinion if we're interested. But analytics involves data. And so we need data in order to participate in analytics. The second component of that definition, other than information facts, is the organization. We have to organize the information or the data in a way that can help us make these decisions. And so if we aren't organizing the information in a way that is more clean than when we first get the information, then we're not participating in that analytics process. That organization is actually the core component of analytics and what many people think of when they think of analytics, data analytics, healthcare analytics, or any other type of analysis. Organizing the information in a way that we can use it. The last component is, of course, the utility. There is a decision that has to be made. There is information that has to be shared or known for particular purposes. Note that if we're not actually using it, the utility and meaning of analytics actually goes out the window. In fact, some might go as far as to argue that if we're not using the information, there's an ethical concern, not just because we're not using important information, but because we are taking the time to organize information from a variety of different places, individuals, and all of that time and all of that information is being wasted. So we really shouldn't have ethically bothered to collect the information in the first place if we weren't going to use it. All this to say, the decision making is a very important process of analytics and one that I am known to get on a high horse about. Briefly, my high horse about the decision making process is that when we're participating in analytics, it doesn't matter if the information, the data, was collected incorrectly. It doesn't matter if the organization of the information was done efficiently or correctly. If when it comes time to make the decision we make is incorrect, then the process has failed. And so as we look at this, the decision-making process is really the culmination of all of the acts of analytics. And if we fail at that stage, then the rest of the process could be right or it could have been wrong. It's irrelevant if we make the wrong decision. And there's a few examples that I have of working with clients where all of the information was collected correctly, all of the analysis and organization of information was performed correctly and robustly, but the decision was made incorrectly. That is, the decision was made with a misunderstanding of what the organized information was conveying. And because that decision was made incorrectly, the incorrect decision happened. The incorrect thing happened. So it's important to remember that decision making is far from being detached from analytics or a separate step, a core component of analytics as we look at it. more broadly from that data perspective. So what is healthcare analytics? Well, in healthcare analytics, we're engaging in the same process. Now, again, I'm going to distinguish for the purposes of this course, between analytics and analysis. We can analyze, say, policy or analyze large things that we don't necessarily have data on. But for analytics, more and more that definition is coming to imply that data have been collected, that information and facts have been gathered to be organized for the purposes of understanding and decision making. From that perspective, then, healthcare analytics involves the culmination of healthcare data so that we can organize the information to make decisions. What are some of the data that we could collect in healthcare analytics? Well, a recent study, it was done after COVID, so we have to take that into account, of hospital administrators analyzed or assessed what information hospital administrators use in their day-to-day administration. This indicated things, and I'm reading here, like operations data and financial information. Public health and external data from the hospital system was another theme. A third theme, integrated or interactive data that were available from a variety of different sources. And then last, novelty or evolving data, data that were specific for particular applications or data that were evolving as the project was ongoing. There's a wide variety of data that healthcare administrators can use in their analytics. And again, the goal is to be able to analyze this information for the purposes of making an informed decision. That is, we have to come to a decision, or else what's the point? All right. One more thought I want to introduce here in the conversation of analytics is the concept of statistics, because we will be discussing statistics a lot in this course. And it's worth discussing in an analytics class, what is the role of statistics? And to hopefully go a little bit deeper than just, hey, we're going to be doing that. So what is statistics? Well, there's a variety of definitions depending on who you ask. One definition, the analysis of numerical data. So we're doing analytics with numerical data, which implies that we can do analytics with non-numerical data, and we absolutely can. Another definition of statistics that was a bit tongue-in-cheek by a colleague, but I quite like, and I don't know that it was that much tongue-in-cheek now that I think about it, is decision-making under uncertainty. That is what statistics is. So as we consider analytics, the organization of information for the purposes of making decisions, when there is uncertainty involved, statistics can play a role in helping us figure out how we can make decisions under uncertainty, and not just how we can make decisions, but assigning probabilistic values, that is, a probability or percentage, to the likelihood of certain events occurring, and through that helping us to make a more informed decision looking to the future. Now, I say under uncertainty, and depending on what you think when you hear that term, you may either think that, well, that's never going to happen, I always know the information I know, or you may think that under uncertainty happens all the time, we can't know anything. Regardless of your epistemological beliefs, the under uncertainty is actually something that occurs quite often in data analytics. In fact, in some ways, we can say it happens almost all of the time in data analytics. The idea is that the information that I have for the decision that I'm trying to make is usually not the only information that's out there, A, and B is usually not regarding the participants that I'm trying to influence. So let's consider a hypothetical example where I'm a hospital administrator assessing a particular fall policy on a wing or floor of my hospital. When assessing that particular policy, if I'm going to use healthcare analytics, I might engage or collect data from a variety of different sources. I might assess, say, the number of falls I might assess current practices that are being implemented in different situations. As I mentioned earlier, from the list of hospital administrators and what they collect when it comes to decision making, I might collect information from other hospitals. So I might do data analysis or healthcare analytics using information not from my hospital to see what has been shown to be effective or attempt to see that. But ultimately, all of this information will regard past behavior. My decision will be regarding future behavior. I'm hoping that my decision impacts future patients in that particular wing or floor of my hospital. This is where uncertainty often enters our decision making. I'm not certain that my past patients perfectly reflect my future patients. And because of that, uncertainty has entered the decision making process. And this is where statistics can be of use. Ultimately, what statistics can provide in such a situation is a reflection on the probability or percentage that this particular grouping of previous participants would be reflective of a future behavior, or even the likelihood that a future behavior would fall within the predicted range of statistic or, say, number of falls based on this previously collected data. All of this to say, the idea of decision making under uncertainty plays a huge role in all of analytics. And this ultimately breaks up how we'll approach analytics through this course. So in our course, we're going to be dealing with, well, statistics throughout the entirety of the course. There's analytics that describe things, and there's analytics for the purposes of the active decision making, and they play two different roles. The analytics that describe things are often used in decisions, but are used informally. That is to say, I would like the average number of patients that I have in my ward in a given week, or the current number that I have today. I'd like predictions made for some things, and maybe not even predictions. Maybe I just want to see what happened today or last week. I want to know what's happening at other hospitals, as some of these other administrators have touted in their daily briefing as being useful information. And in that particular case, I want to say, okay, this is the information I have, and this is the decision that I'm going to make today. So in that case, I'm not using statistics for that decision making in the sense of I'm not doing the probabilistic inference that we discussed previously. I'm using these descriptions of the current situation to inform me as to what's going on, and then I will make a decision. Now, that is extraordinarily useful because you can combine your previous experience as a hospital administrator, and B, you can also incorporate this in a very fast and fluid way when quick decisions have to happen. And with that said, this opens up the decisions to biases. And in those biases, and don't hear me say the colloquial name bias, hear me say statistical bias. That is a bias where the decision-making process is not solely based on the facts presented. There are other components presented in this which can shift our decisions in one direction systematically. In statistical decision making, we take a different process. That is, we do processes that compare our data to these statistical presuppositions, ultimately eliminating bias from the decision so that we can make as informed and objective of a decision as possible. In our class, we'll talk about both methods, but lean towards the second. The first uses many data sources that many of you are already familiar with. And don't worry, we're going to spend some time talking about that and formally introducing that, because in this class, I try not to assume that you've seen much of anything regarding analytics. But we do spend quite a bit of time focusing on the second one, that is the place of inferential statistics in analytics, because inferential statistics does offer that more objective view. Now, again, you don't always have time to take the time to incorporate inferential statistics in the decision-making process. But when that's available, it is almost always beneficial to present that additional information of the formal statistical analysis being done so that the decisions made can be more objective and just have a little bit more formal of a base. Ultimately, all of the decisions we make incorporate some uncertainty. And that statistical decision making also helps you formalize the exact probabilities of being correct or incorrect in a particular decision. And I shouldn't say correct, but likelihood of being correct or incorrect in your particular decisions. I guess that's kind of true. In any case, the purpose of this and our healthcare analytics class is to incorporate data analytics concepts in a healthcare setting. To do this, we will be heavily using statistics, both the descriptive statistics, where we describe the current situation, which can be useful for decision making in its own way in an analytic context, but also, and more heavily, the inferential statistics, which we will spend a great deal of time introducing, and then introduce the process of inferential statistics at the end of the course in several different studies using several different common inferential methods. In any case, I hope this has been helpful to articulate a little bit more clearly what analytics is, both in data analytics, in healthcare analytics, and in the main topic of this course, which will be statistics, and how that incorporates into our analytic process.